45 years ago today, I had a wake-up call. I was heading for disaster, drinking myself to death. I'm not preachy, but I got a message, a little thought that said, do you want to live or die? And I said, I want to live. And suddenly the relief came, and my life has been amazing. And I have my off days and sometimes little bits of doubt and all that. But all in all, I say, hang in there. Today is the tomorrow you were so worried about yesterday. You young people, don't give up. Just keep in there. Just keep fighting. Be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid. And that sustained me through my life.
You know, when I look back at my life, and I just think of the financial implications of drinking, it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. Because when I was on the SEAL teams, we spent a lot of money on alcohol. A lot of money on alcohol. And if I would have saved that money, invested that money, bought something, a house, like it would have been just a totally different scenario. It was no factor to spend $400 or $500 a night in the 90s. Because back in the day, you could only get $300 out of an ATM.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I remember I'd have to kind of preload the day before to make sure I had like $600 for whatever we were going to do. And look, that might include a taxi, it might include some burgers, but most of it, $300-400 of it, booze, just like an idiot. And then time. How much time did I spend drinking and did we spend drinking when we could have been getting better at guitar? Could have been learning how to do a skill that would be more valuable. What sucks is, you know, you're in the SEAL teams, there's only these certain skills that you care about. You care about diving, you're like, just these things that you care about and you can do okay with them and you're pretty good at them. And actually in your platoon, you're like, dude, we're all the best. And I'm pretty good even with the best, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's exactly the same. Obviously not with shooting and diving, but with the stuff that I cared about, it was drinking basically was like second to all that stuff, so I could fit it in. You know, if you can get 5 workouts a day or a week, get to work on time, do a good job at work, not get arrested and stuff like that.
Drinking is one of the few activities that if you don't partake, people assume or accuse you of having a problem. And it's just wild. I think drinkers don't like people who don't drink because it takes the fun out of it for them. Because there's this idea that's prolific on college campuses. If everyone's drunk, that somehow like the entire like vibe of the party is going to take on a new flavor. And I think that alcohol to me never felt good. I never liked it. And it was a recipe for a lot of fights, a lot of bad stuff happens, poor decision making. There's so many better ways to have a good time that alcohol isn't necessary.
I'll tell you the truth. It depends, right? At the beginning, it's very, very hard. It's 10, okay? You start off because you're in the habit of doing this, whatever it is. And, you know, compulsive behavior, it's like if you limit to alcohol or alcohol and drugs, it's a sort of certain segment of society. If you look at the people that overeat, eat their fucking feelings, and end up just as unhealthy, it's a lot more. If you look at people who shop and gamble or have sex or relationships or use the fucking phone, we're very programmed to seek out rewards and get compulsive about it, gamble, whatever. Nonetheless, it's fucking hard because you've taught yourself this is the only way to ease my pain. I'm in pain, this is the only way to make it better.
Drank in search of happiness and in search of a lifestyle that I thought would bring me to happiness. It didn't, and I woke up one morning going, wow, I've drank a lot, but I'm still not happy. What's that about?
Yeah, well, alcohol is an extraordinarily pernicious drug, and if you're inclined towards it, you can be inclined towards it because you're sensitive to its anxiety-reducing properties, or you can be sensitive to it because it enhances social communication, or because it produces a psychomotor high like cocaine, or all of those at once. And if you're particularly predisposed to alcoholism, you can experience all three at once.
For people like me who are in recovery, you are born feeling empty on a certain level, and you are looking unconsciously or consciously to fill that.
Drinking, in this case, like what drinking just robs from you. Because there's like that idea, that little thing, that smile, that freaking happiness, you know? Be surprised how many things in life like that exists in. I'm telling you, you'll miss. I totally would miss a bunch of that stuff because I'm like focusing on recovering and you're dragging, you're not in the mood for anything.
So things that are supposed to give you the internal smile.
As family trees go, every leaf on my mom's family tree is, I think I can pretty safely say, everyone, except for my generation, like my cousins. I don't even think dead or dying even counts anymore. I think they're all dead. I think they all died from alcoholism.
Alcohol is often used as a sleep aid for people who are struggling with sleep when things like over-the-counter remedies or herbal remedies have just not worked out for them. And alcohol, unfortunately, is anything but a sleep aid. But alcohol is quite different in that regard because it's a sedative. What it's really doing is trying to essentially knock out your cortex. It's sedating your cortex. And sedation is not sleep. But when we have a couple of drinks in the evening, when we have a couple of nightcaps, we mistake sedation for sleep. In truth, what's happening is that you're losing consciousness quicker, but you're not necessarily falling naturalistically asleep any quicker. The second thing with alcohol is that it fragments your sleep. Alcohol will actually have you waking up many more times throughout the night, so your sleep is far less continuous. Now, some of those awakenings will be of conscious recollection the next day. You'll just remember waking up. Many of them won't be. Your sleep will be littered with these sort of punctured awakenings throughout the night. And again, when you wake up the next morning, you don't feel restored by your sleep.
Like many Brits, had a very, very boozy December. Christmas time, I was on vacation, I was drinking a lot. And I've always been able to drink a lot. I think I get my genes from my mum's side in that thing, like I can drink. I would look back and recognise that I would go to events for work and be like, I can't enjoy myself until I've had a few beers. And I just felt so much pressure. And this is one of the things why I've sort of distanced myself from the rugby community, because so much of it is about how much can you drink? Let's get you as drunk as possible. I would drink and drink and drink and drink, and then you would just reach that moment where you're like, wow, I shouldn't have had that last beer. And you wake up the next day and you have a terrible headache and you're suffering. I bought one of those rings that will tell you about your sleep.
Yeah, Oura ring.
Yeah, and it was amazing because I couldn't sleep. I was like, why can't I sleep? I'm working 14 hours a day, I'm doing 2 hours in the gym, I'm eating really healthily, and I can't sleep. What's wrong with me? I bought this ring and it was booze.
The reason I quit drinking is because if I drink, my life goes to shit every single time. And on this end, when I don't drink, my life literally gets better and better and better and doesn't stop. And I was like, oh, damn, that's like a good, even if that's not factually true for anyone, like that's literally how it works most of the time.
It'd be hard pressed to find someone that their life gets better when they're drinking and gets worse when they're sober. Maybe you could take some kind of a short-term tactical view that like, oh, I'm gonna have more fun at this party. But if you want to talk about at your life, broadly speaking, there's no one that's on the list of like, my life is better when I'm drinking alcohol.
Or ever since I picked up drinking more, my life has improved, by so much.
Like to truly be powerless over something is fucking demoralizing. It's so rough. And yeah, that was one of those things where it's kind of a source of shame for me, and then I see his reaction to that, and that's a source of optimism for him. It like infected me, where I was like, oh, yeah, good on you. You did, you kept at it. You didn't die from this, and a lot of us do, Because I think there's a couple of common fallacies about sobriety. One of them being that people hit a bottom, and then that's that. And most addicts have many bottoms. I have many events that were even worse than the one that ended up being my last event,
If you don't think you're addicted, and I'm talking about anyone, from the highest to the lowest, if you don't think you're addicted, then see if you could turn it off for a week. Got quiet in here, didn't it? Didn't it get real quiet?
It's a progressive disease, so it gets worse and worse as you get older. So you'd think I would have a drink the very next night, but I didn't. And then, as I was like 18, 19, 20, then it really started to kick in. I was drinking every night. It was a secret. I would drink with my pals. I would race to a liquor store at 1:45 so I could have alcohol at my house and drink more than I did with my friends. And it just became this roller coaster ride that I didn't understand.
If I could ever find it in myself to not drink for a week, it's like, why? I feel so much better just in general. And you kind of consider, sure, I did some cool things outside of my normal routine and developed cool traditions, and snowboarding was just one of them. And that is cool, but imagine how many other things could materialize if I just freaking finally just turned my back on drinking.
Remember, there are people who have genetic variants, meaning genes that they inherited from their parents, that make it more likely that they will become alcoholics. if people are ingesting alcohol, even if it's not every night, there are well-recognized changes in neural circuits. There are well-recognized changes in neurochemistry within the brain, and there are well-recognized changes in the brain-to-body stress system. Increased stress when people are not drinking, diminished mood and feelings of well-being when people are not drinking, and, as you'll soon learn, changes in the neural circuitry cause people to want to drink even more in order to get just back to baseline, or the place that they were in terms of their stress modulation and in terms of their feelings of mood before they ever started drinking in the first place. Those sorts of drinking patterns are changing neural circuitry, and they're changing hormone circuitry. They're actually changing them for the worse. And worse is defined as making people less resilient to stress, higher levels of baseline stress, and lower mood overall.
You do stupid things when you're drunk. You hurt yourself. You compromise your health. It's really hard on the people around you. You tend to turn into a liar, and it screws up your life.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it's pretty fun. Yeah, well, it is. But you need something better than that. And what's better isn't being straight and not making mistakes. It's like that's all prohibition in some sense. What's better is, no, you need an adventure, man. You need to get out there and have something to do.
Yeah.
And something worth waking up for. And that's the substitute for the addiction. Actually, the addiction is the substitute for that, if truth be known.
Right. Fear was a big motivator in that for me. You know, losing my family was the thing that scared me so much. That was the bottom I hit, that my family's going to go away because of my behaviors that I brought home from the road. I got kicked out of the house by my wife. I was living on my own somewhere, and I did not want that. And maybe as part of my upbringing, my family kind of disintegrated when I was a kid. Father left, mother passed away, I had to live with my brother, and then kind of just all, like the family, where'd my stuff go? Where it just kind of floated away. And I do not want that happening. No matter what's going on, we're going to talk this stuff out and make it work, And my wife's of the same idea, same thought that, her family, she was the invisible kid too, so we relate a lot. So there's no way we're going to let, any argument get in the way, or just, we're survivors. We're survivors, and we're gonna talk through it no matter how much. And she did the right thing. She kicked my ass right the hell out of the house, and that scared the shit out of me. So, and she said, hey, you're not just going to the therapist now. You're just not just talking about this. You got to go somewhere and sort this shit out.
You have this focus. You can control your brain. You understand the big picture. You go through life. You always hear people tell you that alcohol is not good for you. I told you. I never was like, dude, you shouldn't drink.
You gave me more shit about getting a Coke the first time, like a soda.
Coca-Cola.
More than you ever did about anything drinking.
Well, I don't like that high fructose corn syrup. But you heard that. You never really understood the power of not drinking. You know what I'm saying? Like, as many people said, oh yeah, it's a waste, it's poison, it's all this stuff. You never said to yourself, you know what? For a long time, 15 years of drinking, you never said to yourself, my life would be way better if I stopped, right? Yeah. Now that you've stopped, is it even better than you thought it would be? Or you had heard it would be?
Put it this way, I never really actually imagined it. I just knew it as like the answers to a test. If someone were to ask me, would your life be better or worse without drinking? I'd be like, better, because I know that's true. I can't feel it though. How much better? How does that look when I do this? How does that look? Yeah, I never really thought real deep into that part of it. I was just basically going moment to moment. So if I could pull it off one day, 1 week without drinking, then I could feel it. But I didn't really I guess I failed to formulate any kind of structure or plan or vision into the future. I was like, cool, I did it and I know that's good for me, but now I can kind of cut loose. It was like a moment to moment kind of thing. I think once it kind of takes hold and then you recognize it for what it is, and then you get exposed to, in a real way, what you could be doing and what your life could be, and you're exposed to it actually happening. And then you say, okay, I choose right now to pursue this and not pursue this. And go back to what freaking K-Dog Carrie Helton said, where you just go binary, go be like, okay, hey, I could either go this path and be like, hey, my life is gonna go to shit every single time. And in real life, it doesn't go to shit every single time level 10. No, it doesn't. But it might go level 0.1.
Yeah.
or more 0.5 or
It
1.
adds up.
And here's the thing, whether it adds up or not, obviously, but it doesn't matter. You're choosing to go negative per like event. You're choosing it as opposed to the other choice, go positive.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I could either go here where my life goes to shit every single time, or I could go here where my life improves every single time and doesn't end. Then you formulate that whole structure in your head and be like, I choose this one. It does become a lot easier for sure.
I have noticed in the past few months since camp that your productivity is higher, your attitude is better.
When I was a teenager, I was addicted to alcohol and got in a lot of trouble and got sober when I was 17. And then 3 years after that, I was on a television show. And that felt great. And it was like this new thing and a new source of, to fill me up. Like when I was young, it was like I was just shy. I just didn't know how to get along in the world. I didn't know how to talk to people. And alcohol was like the best solution for that. The problem is for me, normally you have a window. It's like, it's fun, they say, and then fun with problems and then just problems. Like my window from fun to just problems was so short. And I was a ward of the court and all this stuff. But once I couldn't use alcohol to sort of fill that hole, it was like, oh, success, attention, this is great. And so in a weird way, I got addicted to validation, I guess, or success or whatever that is.
But there is like an awareness that I really struggled with, particularly in my like late teens when I was going out to places for the first time, where you would like feel, and it could have largely been in my head, but you would feel watched when you went into a bar, when you went into a pub, and then, in my case, the quickest way of forgetting about the fact that you were being watched was to get very drunk, and then as you get very drunk, you become aware that, people are watching more now because now I'm getting very drunk, so I should probably drink more to ignore that more. And so it gets into, you get into it can affect your psyche, and you sort of have to, and I think that's something, as I said, there is no blueprint for starting young and working stuff out.
Very hard to moderate, but moderation is the key, I think. But I think things like sugar, sweet stuff, junk food, cocaine, alcohol, it's all things that, like, it feels good the more you do, but it's like, it's the worst thing for you, I think.
Hangover is a constellation of effects ranging from headache to nausea to what's sometimes called hangxiety, which is anxiety that follows a day of drinking. Hangxiety, I think we can understand physiologically if we think about that process of alcohol intake increasing the amount of cortisol and the ratio of cortisol to some other stress hormones. That well explains why some people wake up the day after or even the day after a night drinking and feel anxious and not well and stressed for reasons they don't understand.
I got sober when I was younger, when in 2001, which I now look at it as a sort of a JV version of what really the problem is. I was sober for a couple of years, and then I thought, I want to just drink like a normal person, and I want to have wine at dinner and so on. And I was able to. I was able to for about 8 years. I started to drink more and more and more, and it was really hard for me to accept that meant I was an alcoholic. I was like, I can just go back. I was fine before. I just need to take a break. I just need to slow down. I'm okay. You know what I mean? This isn't me. And I come home from work and I start to drink, and I just sit there and drink till I pass out on the couch.
No one can get sober for their jobs, for their wife, for their kids. They can't do it for any of that. They can only do it when they decide they're done. My big worry when I got sober was I wasn't gonna have fun anymore.
As an alcoholic, I talk about, some warning signs, like DUIs in a cul-de-sac, things like that. The idea of, have you been through it to talk about it and see, this is what you go through. Heart surgery, alcoholism. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open. And the idea of, these are things you got to talk about. There's this thing for alcoholics called a blackout, which isn't really a blackout. It's more like sleepwalking with activities. And I believe it's your conscience going into a witness protection program, going, you're about to have sex with a hobbit. I've got to go now. Good luck. I'm checking out. I'm leaving the body on, but we're not going to remember anything. Good luck to you. Getting into it? No.
Was
I
it a
remember
gradual thing? Or?
Yeah, it was very gradual. It was just, and you're off, you know, you're off and running. And then the alcohol kicked in and decided, and then eventually you realized, I can't. I remember stopping it on my own because I was about to have a son. And I didn't want to be coked up going, hey, Dad loves you. Here's a little switch. I'm going to throw up on you. You know, you don't want to be like that. And I had to kind of go, but I did it alone. So that was why it was, 20 years without any help. More importantly, my son. I think that was the beginning of kind of, thinking outside the box of you've got a responsibility. And it's
Your productivity is higher. Your attitude is better. I mean, you never had like a bad attitude, but your attitude is better even coming to train.
Yeah.
I used to laugh when you'd show up to train. I'd be like, oh, you're going to train today, huh? You're in there, ready to go.
Yes, sir.
I'd say benefiting across the board. What's crazy to me is like, what else is like that? What else what about your phone? Like in the social media that you're just looking at? Or what about the food that you're eating? Or what about like the cold exposure? Like what little things are out there? Jiu-jitsu. A lot of people don't know that can put a smile on your face, right? What's interesting about having you on here is most people that stop drinking, they have been, number one, they're alcoholics, and maybe there's a severity for alcoholism. But most people that quit drinking, they quit drinking because like they hit rock bottom, right? That's a thing.
Yeah.
Gotta hit rock bottom. And I would say you did not hit rock bottom.
No.
But you realized how much further you could go.
Yeah.
You didn't have to fall out of the tree to hit rock bottom, but you looked up and saw that there's a lot more altitude to gain, and you ain't getting it if you're hitting the bottle every night.
I believe so.
So let's stay clean, everybody.
For me, what I realized was I was running to things to avoid tough feelings, painful feelings. I just didn't know how to deal with them, and looking for anything I found that I use for escape, to escape those kinds of I guess difficult feelings. I don't know how better to describe it. I mean, that can be anything. That can be drugs, booze, Netflix, snacks, anything. I don't want to at this point to be running from anything. I want to sit in it. I want to feel it. I want to get through the rough night. And I found in doing so, you come out the other side with a more profound understanding of yourself, a greater gratefulness for those in your life, and the birds and the trees and everything else.
I haven't had a drink for a long time now, but for the first 10 years of that period, a lot of my thinking and behavior didn't really change. It was a slow evolvement, really. It was only then and after I'd had my children, my daughter and my son, I began to realize, and it's actually clear in the film, and I can see it in a form of desperation, that here I am suddenly faced with responsibility, and that I had to do something about it. So,
really? Yeah, like a real desire to live. And I suppose the birth of my first son, James, was a moment in my life where I got to realize fully that I wasn't just living for myself. This little baby who didn't need a best friend, who needed a dad. So that was a big turning point.
Alcohol is this little devil. Let's face it, the devil can offer up some cool things.
Oh, yeah. That's what the devil does.
The deal with the devil, yeah, exactly.
The devil doesn't offer you up things that look bad. The devil offers you up things that look good.
Yeah.
You get suckered in.
Exactly right. And the more you justify it, the more the devil's like, yes, 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 yes. You're like, no, but it's not. It's helping me in this creative way, or it's not a problem. I do it to have more fun with my friends, build relationships, all this stuff. Where the devil's in there going, yes, 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 like more of that kind of a thing. But really, what the devil is doing is finding its way into a bunch of parts of your life. In fact, the more the better. The more parts of your life that the devil can find his way into, the better for him. And then his goal is to just fuck it all up. And the more you justify it, the more he's like, yes, allow me into this part too. It's like, yeah, man, you're stressed right now. I can help you with that. Let me help you with your stress, by the way. Put some alcohol on your stress. That'll help. It'll help
for the next hour. Can't think straight. You forget about the fact that stress is there.
Yeah.
And then you wake up and the stress is more.
It's interesting. I didn't one day wake up and say, I'm giving up drinking. I have done in the past. Like I've had periods of my life where I'd given up drinking and then gone back to drinking. But this time, I don't know. It was just different. I really worked to sort of change my mindset. I really asked myself, like, why do you drink? Why are you drinking? And a lot of the time my answer would be to feel more comfortable in the social environment.
Yeah.
And I just put myself in those environments and just would force myself to be there. I'd force myself to hang out and go to a club or go to a bar, go to a dinner, because I didn't feel like I could go and not have a drink because of the stress of it. But then after a while, I sort of was like, mate, you've got to pull your socks up here, and you can't just live in your house all the time. You've got to go out and enjoy yourself. And if you're only enjoying yourself because you're drinking, then you really do have a problem. I had a great support system. Jack is one of my best mates, and we travel all over the world. He doesn't drink, and doing it with him was a really helpful experience for me. My brother is always on the road with me. He was very supportive. And yeah, I just really set my mind to it. I was like, I really want to do this. I want to prove to myself I can do it.
Alcohol is a really bad drug, you know. 50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It's almost the sole cause of so-called date rape. If you dig into criminal behavior deeply enough, well, hell, you don't have to dig much at all before you find alcohol. It's also the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive.
I gave it up for a long period of time. You know, the insanity of having another drink a couple of years later and starting this whole thing all over again was insane. I was insane. I am insane. But interestingly enough, only in this area. Like, I'm a pretty logical fellow in every area but this one.
Quit drinking out there if you're drinking. Doesn't help you. Get some help if you need it, but the alcohol is not going to do it. Anything else?
Well, there's a period of 4 years where I needed to quit drinking, and the drinking was got in the way, and I talk about that a lot in the book. That was one of those obstacles that I had to get over, and I think that, you know, once again, I needed to clear the road in order for these things to happen. So it really is an inside job, and you know, I had to clean up my act and figure that whole situation.
You no longer drink?
No, it's been over 11 years.
It had a lot to do with the extent to which I was in the grips of addiction and alcoholism. And I think a component of that is that I somehow felt defective. You know, there was just a discomfort in my own skin, which is a common trait of alcoholism. So I just felt like there was something wrong with me.
The guy had written, can I just have 1 or 2 drinks a month or whatever? And it was really in a time, maybe 6 months ago, I kind of had an answer in my head of, listen, if you can drink, you know, you can have 1 or 2 drinks, not that big of a deal. That's normal and people carry on. And I just couldn't say it, man. I just couldn't say it. I just can't get behind alcohol. I just can't do it. I've known too many people that have lost too much in their lives to alcohol. Everything from people that have spent all their money, people that have drank themselves to death, people that have wrecked their relationships, got divorced, end up killing themselves. Like, it's such a huge part of all that negativity. Why do it? If you're out there kicking ass and you think to yourself, well, I'm kind of like Echo, you know, I still do my job, I still get everything done, I can still go to work out in it. Imagine how much better you could be if you didn't have that ball and chain around your ankle, if you didn't have that weight vest on. So don't do it. That's my recommendation.
Not being present and not being able to do the things that I needed to do as a husband and a father. I mean, I was functional, but barely at some 3 daughters, a 26-year-old, a 25-year-old, and almost 22-year-old. And so you start looking at their lives and you start thinking about when you're gone, what are they going to remember about you? And what are they going to think, you know? And so those things start creeping into your mind.
It makes everybody stupid and fuzzy-minded. And, you know, the problem is when you're drinking, you think you're cool, but, you know, you have those same delusions that Homer Simpson's friend Barney had when he was drinking, that you're this kind of, you know, elegant and sophisticated comedian. And
discipline equals freedom. This is true. It's true. The more disciplined you are, the more free you are. Cut the ball and chain. That's what it is. Freaking ball and chain.
I am a recovering alcoholic. And to you out there, I know there are people struggling. In this day and age of cancel and hatred and non-compromise, children being bullied, I say to this, be kind to yourself. Be kind. Stay out of the circle of toxicity with people. If they offend you, live your life. Be proud of your life. 47 years ago, I was in a desperate situation, in despair, and probably not long to live. And I just happened to acknowledge one day that there was something really wrong with me. But I didn't realize that it was a kind of condition, mental, physical, emotional condition called alcoholism or addiction. I'm not an expert on drugs. I'm not an expert on anything. I know nothing, except I have found a life where no one bullies me. I want to say to all you young people who are being bullied, take heed. You be proud of yourself. Don't listen to them.